The world of digital transformation has changed quite a bit in the years, especially for organizations that are implementing multinational ERP digital transformations, and even more so recently with Brexit in Europe, in particular in the UK. That creates a number of uncertainties and challenges and things to think about as we're thinking about our global digital transformations. My name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. I'm here with Stuart Robb, our Vice President of Europe for Third Stage Consulting as well. Hello and welcome, Stuart.
Hi, Eric. How are you doing?
Great. Well, thanks for joining here today. First question I want to ask for you, Stuart, is it's been about 3 years now since the UK has voted for Brexit. The drama, the saga continues to evolve and unfold. There's a lot of uncertainty and doubt around what that direction of Brexit's really going to look like ultimately. So maybe for the average layman or for those of us Americans that are not up to speed on what Brexit is, maybe if you give us a quick overview of Brexit and what you're seeing from your side of the pond.
Sure, yeah. Well, so about 3 years ago, as you said, the British public decided to vote in a referendum to leave the European Union. And what that effectively meant is leave the structures of the European Union, which includes a common customs area and a common trading area. And so from a ERP and digital transformation perspective, that means that the way that Britain does business with Europe will be changing from what it is today. The challenge that we have is that we just don't know what those changes are because we don't know what kind of Brexit we're going to have. And various proposals have been put forward. One included keeping the customs union and effectively a free trade area, which would have meant very little impact. And the deal that's now currently trying to be pursued is a different kind of deal and maybe a no deal. And if it's a no deal, then the changes are enormous because then we are into customs trading, changes to supply chain, changes to tax determination, and it has a raft of impacts.
Great. So if I'm a company based in Europe and I've got my steady state operations, I'm pretty happy with my ERP system. I'm not really planning on necessarily doing an upgrade or a re-implementation of anything new. What are the things I should be doing or thinking about or just doing going forward to account for this?
Well, so your tax design will change. So if you're running SAP, for example, there'll be changes to GTS. In Oracle, there'll be changes to GTM. So if you're doing currently customs automation, that will all have to change because now there will be a customs relationship, customs barrier and excise barrier between the UK and the European Union. If you do lots of intercompany between the UK and European companies, that will all change. The invoices will change. The tax logic in particular will change as well. And this is, these are reasonably significant amounts of change. These things are not simple to do in these ERP systems. And therefore you're looking at a substantial amount of work when we're likely to get 3 days notice as to what those changes are going to be if you read the papers. There is a great deal of uncertainty and it's very difficult to do that planning, but at least being aware of what needs to be changed and having a reasonably rapid implementation plan around what those changes would have to be is a sensible precautionary measure. And certainly that's what some of the larger European companies are doing at the moment. It's effectively doing quite a lot of pre-planning on 2 or 3 different scenarios as to what they might need to do. And it's more likely to impact product master data, as I said, the tax design in particular, sales tax being the most prominent. But also if you have a complex supply chain, just-in-time supply chain, then changes to your inventory rebalancing across Europe, changes to warehousing and logistics, all of those things are going to be impacted. Even your forecasting model and your demand model might need to change because you're going to have to take account of potential delays in cross-border traffic while Brexit is getting implemented. Companies can't plan for the actual implementation because they don't know what the actual implementation is going to look like. but actually having a good idea about what's likely to change and what you would need to change, is a sensible precautionary plan, so that when we do find out what it is, those things can be implemented reasonably quickly.
Yeah, those are some great tangible, specific examples of how European companies would need to adjust their current state ERP operations. What about for so Stuart, you work with companies that are European based, obviously being our VP of Europe, but you also work with a lot of our American clients and multinational clients in other regions that also have European operations. So if, for example, I'm an American company, I've got operations over in the UK. Anything different from what you just described that I would need to be concerned about, or additional to what you just described?
Again, it kind of depends on what happens post-Brexit. The date for Brexit currently is set at the 31st of October, despite the UK's Parliament trying its best to see if it can kick it further down the road. But from an American organisation perspective, it pretty much is the same. I mean, if we get the free trade agreement that America is promising us, the day after we do Brexit, then again there will be further changes, because obviously then the tariff regimes and some of the other inter-trading relationships between the UK and US will also change. Again, we don't know what they are, but sensible pre-planning to say these are the kind of things that might change in my ERP. Even to the extent that I know that some companies are putting some of the firms on retainer, the actual implementation firms, in order to be ready, so that when we do know, they've got a team of people already assembled who are ready to start executing.
Yeah, that's great advice. And so what if I'm a company then? I'll throw a curveball here, kind of a what if. I'm a company I've had the same legacy system in place now for 10, 15, 20 years. I'm pretty happy with it. I have no plans to make any major changes here. And I'm not used to really making changes. I haven't really changed the system. Maybe I haven't upgraded in a long time. So I don't really have that internal competency or capability to be nimble and kind of quickly respond to things like a Brexit. What are some of the things just organizationally and operationally I could be doing, in addition to having a system integrator or potential consulting help on retainer? What are some of the things that I could be doing to kind of build that competency and that nimble approach to deal with these kind of changes?
I mean, we're the short end of this now. We're looking at 5-6 weeks away before Brexit happens. So really, there's not a lot of time to build a competency in your own organization if you don't have one at the moment. Your best bet now is to go and retain expertise, in the market, who can help you. So if you have, whatever it is, SAP or Oracle or NetSuite or anything like that, you need to get out there and at least make sure that there are some people secured that can help you with any configuration updates and changes.
Yeah, and someone that just understands operations in addition to the technological piece of it.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned, from a technological perspective, but you're absolutely right, because you'll be changing the operating model of your company. It's not just about changing the configuration of your SAP. Your processes will change. As I said, I've already mentioned, you'll need to do potentially inventory rebalancing, changing your warehousing model, and all of that requires supra competency that sits outside of a pure, technology configuration. It requires changes to your operating model as well.
Yeah. So what if I'm a company that is either in the midst of, or I'm thinking about embarking on a digital transformation or ERP implementation? Obviously, Brexit, the future of Brexit will be certain here shortly, hopefully. And what do I need to do differently as I'm going through this whole transformation that I'm about to go through, or that I might be going through right now?
I mean, truthfully, you are probably in a better off position than companies who are on steady state, because you only have to wait theoretically 6 weeks, or maybe 3 or 6 months before this sorts itself out, and you'll be able to design your end state operating model and your end state processes to take account of however Brexit has unfolded. The real challenge at the moment is for companies that are doing steady state, that don't really know at the moment what's to change. And the key third stage Europe advice is, make sure you understand at least what might change and how you might execute that change at reasonably short notice. Because, for example, UK's Revenue and Customs Service, HMRC, are sending out customs codes and customs notices to firms. And I know of several firms, and they're reasonably large, just don't know what to do with them. So having at least some infrastructure inside your organization and some, project team on standby to actually take account of this, is a really, really important thing if you're to try and stay ahead of the curve on this.
Okay, great. Well, any closing thoughts or words of wisdom or advice for companies as they're thinking about Brexit?
Goodness, I think, the key for me is to try and just do as much pre-planning and pre-thinking as you can. And we are really at the short end of this now, and nobody knows whether it's going to happen. In fact, I was at an Institute of Directors conference about this a few weeks ago. And too many organizations, actually quite large organizations as well in the UK in particular, because they don't know what the answer is, they are kind of ignoring it and hoping it will go away. But if we do crash out of the European Union, the barriers are going to come up, pretty much on the first or second day. And if companies aren't ready for it, that can have a serious impact to their business as usual operations, their steady state ops. So the more you can pre-plan and the more you can think about what those impacts might be, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, never a dull moment, as if we didn't have enough to worry about with our digital transformation.
It's certainly not in the UK Parliament at the moment. It's not a dull moment. That's absolutely right.
Right, keeps us all on our toes for sure. Well, thanks for being here, Stuart. Thanks for having this discussion. This is really helpful, and hopefully the audience finds it helpful as well. So thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you, Eric.
Yeah, thank you. And for those of you watching, thank you for joining. We've included a link below to email addresses for both Stuart and I if you have questions or you want to bounce around ideas on Brexit, what it means to your digital transformation, or just your digital transformation in general. Feel free to reach out to either one of us. I've also included a link to our annual ERP report, which you may want to download just to get some best practices on implementations and whatnot. And as always, if you like the video, please like it, share it, and subscribe to our channel. So thanks very much for joining, and hope to chat with you all soon. Take care.